One of the greatest threats to humanity was always the bubonic plague, right? And you figure the Dark Ages, when that was like the big problem and a lot of people died out there, guys like this plague doctor here were, well, around. They were very creepy. And ever since then, that particular mask, that look, has kind of popped up every time we discuss the bubonic plague. But you're probably thinking to yourself, Matt, come on, the plague's been dead for centuries. It's never going to return. Well, that's actually not true at all. It was discovered not too long ago at a prison in Madagascar, which made me really think of the game Pandemic 2, and that one port shut it down, shut it all down, protect the rest of the world. But it's true, they found it in very unsanitary conditions at a prison in Madagascar. And it even popped up on a boy who was like a sheep farmer in like somewhere in Eastern Europe. So it has the tendency of getting itself around, which means that these doctors, these crazy looking plague doctors, might actually be coming back in more ways than one, considering this new article coming out from the New York Post that says mountains of trash in LA could cause the bubonic plague outbreak. Yeah, because in a city of 4 million people, a county of over 12 million people, and a state with over 40 million people, the last thing you want to have happen is a massive pandemic outbreak of the bubonic plague. But apparently, this is an absolute fear, considering that the disease is very easily transmitted by fleas and rats, and trash kind of attracts a lot of rats. Actually, there's also a lot of cockroaches in LA, but don't ask me on that one. But anyway, it says here, last October, after at least 9 reports of the disease, LA officials cleaned up some of the worst piles of garbage. Now the trash has accumulated once again. With Estela Lopez, an executive director of LA Downtown Industrial Business Improvement District, says, I can't walk down the street without thinking that a flea could jump on me. And that's a legit fear. And if you've ever walked down the streets in Los Angeles, it can get pretty hairy in a few areas. I was one time on a temporary job assignment going to a high school in South Central to work on iPads. It was a weird day. But as I was going to the school, I had to walk past a row of trash cans at 8 o'clock in the morning on a Thursday. And it was one of the worst smells in my entire life. And this was like the entire block of this was that kind of smelly. I've had to go to Watts and work in Watts, and there was trash and just destruction everywhere. I've gone and worked in these really, really, really bad places that have almost no sanitation, it feels like, where this kind of plague outbreak could absolutely happen. And in LA, you kind of just expect it, but it still exists. Now, this could take reportedly up to 90 days for the trash to be removed once again, according to NBC Los Angeles. The outlet also reported that the city has no plan for controlling its rodent population. And when you're in an urban jungle like Los Angeles, it's easy for these kind of things to take place. Like I said, cockroaches are kind of a big issue. It's not just like apartment cockroaches where they're the little bastards. I've been walking through Pasadena and seen big fat black cockroaches, which I did not know that they came in that color, and they scared the absolute crap out of me. But they exist in the city. With that many people, with that much trash, it can get pretty bad pretty quick, especially if the plague is one of the things that could be causing it. Now, it says here that all garbage attracts rats, which is a pose for public health. An infectious disease specialist told the LA Times, NBC LA, that because the rodents can lead to the spread of salmonella and bubonic plague, not to mention fleas have been infected with typhus. Yeah, typhus, like you do. At least 9 people were reported ill with typhus in downtown Los Angeles between July and September, with officials pointing to refuse and stray animals, or to refuse and stray animals as potential catalysts, according to one report. Typhus is a disease caused by bacteria found in infected fleas that can come from cats, rats, opossums, and other stray animals. Accumulation of trash or overcrowding and poor hygiene is typically associated with the spread of the disease. Symptoms typically begin within 2 weeks of exposure and may include fever, chills, body aches, loss of appetite, nausea, vomiting, stomach pains, and rashes. And if you think to yourself, you probably won't get it. Do you know how many strays there are in LA? There's a lot. There's a section in the North Valley, north of North Hollywood, at the edge of the valley, where people just go ditch their animals. I'm not even kidding you. People go out there, they ditch their dogs. In LA, everything is disposable, right? People come in from all over the country. They move in, they bring all their stuff with them. They get an apartment that they can't afford. They can't find a job. They eventually have to move around, and to keep costs down because of how many times they have to relocate. At literally the ending of every single month, you can't go through an LA neighborhood and not find absolute insane amounts of furniture, TVs, desks, chairs, and everything else that people just can't take with them when they leave the domicile to go to someplace else. And sometimes that does include animals, considering that the pet rent for some of these places is extremely high. So people don't take them to the pound, don't take them to a shelter. They just leave them on the street. In fact, one time my girlfriend almost ran over a little Shih Tzu that had been abandoned. She took it in, we kept it for a couple days, cleaned it up, and took it to a shelter and found it a new home. I mean, this is an actual problem in Los Angeles. And so if the plague outbreak happens, I'm not going to lie, as much as I want to be back in Los Angeles, I'm really glad I'm in the woods of Washington, where all I have to worry about out here are bald eagles and bears. Much easier to handle now that I'm armed. You know what I mean? Down there, you can't really use a shotgun on a flea, right? So that's the world we live in now. But I'm curious to know what you think. Do you think we're going to all die by the bubonic plague returning, or do you think we can stop it this time before it takes out one third of the population? Let me know your thoughts, your opinions. You specifically, write them down below. If you guys made it this far, thumbs up the video, write plague in the chat so I know. I'll talk to you all later. Have yourself a great day, and peace out.